Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Sunday night, Tuesday night breakdown. Daniel Routledge and Dave Forrester finally with you to look back over the weekend's action. It's amazing, Dave. We've been doing this for a year now, and this is the first time where life has managed to get in the way of the more important watching of basketball.
It says a lot about both mine and your existence.
It does indeed.
And the tolerance levels of those around us.
Exactly, yes. And a bizarre week, really, in the BBL. There was some absolute classics, and there were a few that I only managed to see one game live. There were a few of them that were hard to watch back, knowing the final score. Let's start with one of them, shall we? Friday night, Sheffield Sharks 62, Plymouth City Patriots 51. Obviously, the Patriots without Denzel Ubiaro, that's a significant chunk of him. But this was a brutal shooting game. Although in the first 6 minutes, you thought that was just going to be Plymouth that couldn't buy a basket because they went 16-2 down.
Yeah, they've had a few slow starts this year as well. And that Ponds Forge thing again, I've talked about it before. The strange dimensions of Ponds Forge that can impact your shooting, particularly when you've come off a long trip like they have, and also that they don't really have that many what you'd call knockdown shooters after probably Joe Hart and Kofi Joseph. But Sheffield are kind of rolling, but you're waiting to know if they've got another switch, and they're starting. They've got to the point now whereby they are playing periods of a game very, very well. But they also have this ability to kind of lapse. It's a weakness as opposed to an ability, I suppose, to kind of lapse and to kind of play down a little bit to keep games close. So possibly unsurprising, Plymouth have got obviously a lot of things going on. They've got new bodies, they've got people coming out, people going in, and their continuity is damaged as a result. It may well be that their unity is damaged as a result. They've got more talent but less unity, and that's a problem. But they are, at their heart, those Plymouth guys are guys who are going to play hard. At their heart, there's not many kind of shirkers or mavericks or anything like that, and they're going to play hard. And what they haven't got yet is anybody who can get them over the hump of a game. And to be fair to PG, he hasn't had a full roster, because as soon as Josephs and Graham Bell come in, then Ubiaro is out, and Ubiaro is top 3 important player. So it's hard. Playing in the 4 American league without any Americans is hard.
And so, Sheffield, you talk about their sort of like up and downedness, for want of a better phrase. 16 points in the first 6.5 minutes, 14 points in the remainder of the first half, and that allowed Plymouth, who finally made a couple of shots in the second quarter, to get back level.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it is with Sheffield. I always think Sheffield are playing better when they're playing faster. When they can get out in transition, because they have got guys who can score in transition, who can run, but there are times when they kind of get bogged down in a half-court game where it can get very sticky, and they don't make shots, and then Tiba's trying to find a guy who is, and the rhythm disappears. So I think that kind of happened in this game, that maybe they played that, they were up early, and so there may be a little bit of mental relaxation. But that relaxation isn't in relation to executing your plays, it's in relation to the speed that you're playing the game at. So you've got to keep that speed high to keep piling it on. And I don't think they did that. And, let's be frank. I mean, if it's 30-30 at half time, Plymouth have a shot. Yeah. That's the reality of it. So if you're Sheffield, you want to be up in the speed of that game. And they really didn't manage it. And it got a bit ugly.
Yeah, and it was got a lot ugly, to be fair. It was pretty close until the final couple of minutes. And actually, it was your boy, Rodney. Tough drive, going left and finishing off the glass, I think it was. Then he hit an open 3 at the top. And then Delpesh took a couple of goes at it, and they suddenly gave themselves a bit of daylight with a couple of minutes to play.
Yeah, and once you've got that separation, you see that's the trouble for Plymouth. If you're only scoring 51 in the game, we've talked about it before. That's not a 7-point gap. That's a 15-point gap.
Yeah,
in a 100-point game, that's a 15-point gap. And they just didn't have enough. And even the guys who've been shooting the ball for them didn't shoot the ball well. And hopefully they will get, LVC will get into it and will be in a position where he can get some of those scores of ball, and they can all fire on the same night, because if they don't all fire on the same night, they're going to struggle to win.
Yeah. And then Sheffield had a play, I think it was with 2 minutes to go, where they just kept getting the ball back, and they didn't score, but they took like a minute off the clock and then got a free throw at
That's
the
the
end
thing,
of it.
because Plymouth don't have much size either. We're talking about skill, shooting, and all this stuff, but they are on demand in relation to size. They're on demand without UBR in relation to athleticism. They're gutsy and they're scrappy, but they don't have what you would call a go-to player or a dominant player. Obviously, that was Joseph's in one game, but he's shown that he's been extremely inconsistent. So it's very difficult to know what they're going to hang the hat on. Is it going to be the defense or is it going to be their offense? They probably need to be as good. They probably need to hang their hat on the defense, but whether they're going to get enough buy-in from everybody and have enough unity to do that, I don't know.
So here's a klaxon for you. 113 points, lowest scoring league game since 2016, which was also Sheffield. And of the 10 games where 113...
Leicester, maybe?
They did have one. No, it wasn't that one. It was against Bristol, but that Leicester one was 60-40. Of the 10 games in the league all time where 113 points or fewer have been scored, Sheffield have been involved in 6 of them.
That's a legacy of Finch, though. That is,
Run your
offense.
Well, actually, you'd be surprised.
Shut the opposition down.
And
kill them with slow burning defensive death.
Yeah,
that was Finch.
There's been a few of them in more recent times. Glasgow 16-5 led the Sharks, who won the game despite shooting 23 of 67. So you win a game with 34%. Pretty mad. Raoul Graham-Bell, he shot okay, actually, 5 of 10 for 17 points, but the Patriots was 16 made shots of 54 attempts, 29%. Kofi was 2 of 16. Tough night for him. Let's move on to Bristol, where the remains of the Flyers and the remains of the Scorchers were going head to head. No Rogers, no Miller, no Davis, no Hamrick. Interesting, I thought on this one that Wanler started the game for Surrey, and less than a minute into the game, Creon changed his mind and went with Jules Dangakoda. And actually, Jules hit a 3 not too long after that, and they started all right. Surrey.
Yeah, I mean, you're right about the teams. I mean, I did a head count. It was kind of it wasn't a question of who was not playing; it was a question of who is playing. And Surrey did. I mean, for all their down bodies, they still have the semblance of some pretty solid BBL players. Individual players. Kaelin, Teo, Jules Dangakodo. Jameson is putting up like Willie Clayton style numbers. He was a really impressive kind of hard hat guy when I saw him, and he's continued with that. And obviously they've got McLemore, who's a vet, who he can still light it up in the league, and they've had a little bit of Robertson as well as a legit 7-footer. So that's before you get to Wanless and the kids. So they're not kind of hopeless, to use a phrase without disrespecting anybody. They're not. They are solid players. There's nobody in there who can't be in a BBL rotation, And if you've got 6, that's all you need for a game. You might need more for a month or for a season, but 6 is what you need for a game. You can still play hard, play competitive, and the chips fall where they may. And sometimes having that kind of lesser number can actually bring your unity together and make it easier because the players all know they're going to play. And Bristol's absentees were actually probably just as impactful, because Miller's been an important player for them. Rogers has played a lot of minutes this year. So you're taking 2 kind of holes out of their roster. So he did start okay.
They led 12-4, worth noting. Yeah. We always talk about how they play from behind. They did get in front briefly in this game.
Briefly, yeah. Maybe they need to sustain it to the second quarter next time. I thought Bristol were a little bit slow at the blocks as well. But after that, it was kind of just a grinding down game.
Yeah.
They kind of ground them down, and Surrey really need to play fast, but they don't really have the bodies to play fast without Davis and Hamrick, because they're probably their 2 fastest players, and so they're kind of stuck betwixt and between in relation to the style that they want to play. And then obviously they had Robertson getting injured as well, which made it very difficult down the stretch. Bristol had a good weekend because they beat Plymouth as well. There were 2 games they had to win. I don't think they changed anybody's opinions of them in the 2 games they had to win.
No.
But they did it. you know, and they win it down players. And as a coach, you'll take that and you'll move on. They're the games that you have to bank.
Interesting. You said they had to. They got it. They sort of ground it through. And Delpesh was probably their best player in that sort of format. And it was him. They had that run early in the second quarter, I think it was 17-2 to take the lead, and they just sort of kept them at arm's length after.
Yeah, I mean, I was disappointed. I mean, I was a little bit disappointed with the way Surrey defended Bristol, because Bristol played 20 minutes with Corey Samuels playing in that game. And Corey Samuels, I think I asked you afterwards, is a guy who shot maybe 3 threes all season. You know, he hasn't played. He's a young professional. He's playing his first year. He's probably not going to be expected to play 20, 25 minutes a game every game. And there were times, you know, where I was watching it and you would see Surrey guys run to Samuels and leave corner shooter open, if it's Thomas Edwards who's shooting 45%, or one of the Americans. And you're thinking, make him beat you. You know, if he's going to beat you, he's going to make some shots good, good for him. But I much prefer that you live with him beating you than with somebody else. And they didn't do that. So I don't think they maximized their opportunities. And when teams are down players, it sometimes kind of impacts. It should impact the way the opposition play, because you saw it earlier this season at Leicester, when Leicester went at Yabanti, when Yabanti was playing for Newcastle. If there is somebody on there who is inexperienced, who possibly isn't used to the intensity of a BBL game, who you don't know if he's going to make it, or you don't know if he's going to hurt you or not, then you make him make all the plays. You see whether or not he can beat you, and if he can, you hold your hands up and you say whatever, And I didn't think they did that. I thought they treated them all the same, and unfortunately they gave some open shots up near the end. And it's those kind of breakdowns that I've hurt Surrey all season, in relation to giving up shots, turning the ball over when they don't need to. Because as we've pointed out, they've not been out of that many games. They've been within 10 points the vast majority of their season. But you have to be able to make, if you're in a game like that, you have to be able to make a run. The only way you can make a run is to get stops. The only way you can get stops is to make sure the right guys are shooting the basketball and you play right defense. And they didn't do that. Delpesh is playing exceptional. Sorry, that sounds like a football commentator. Sorry, he's playing exceptionally well.
Yes.
He certainly added to his game since he was away, because Marcus was always the one that you had kind of a little bit higher on the scouting report than Malcolm. I'm not quite sure why, because obviously they look the same and they play the same, play very similar. But it was always, I always felt you were a little bit more threatened by Marcus and Malcolm. And Malcolm has come back from Germany, and he's certainly a better player than he was. He's able to kind of hold down the middle, but more importantly, he's able to score efficiently. And that's where they have the upgrade from where they had with Edozie last year, because Edozie could hold down the middle, but he struggled to score as much. I'm still not sure about the use of the import on Simmons. I think Simmons can play, but he's not playing that many minutes for an import. And they do have a hole at the kind of the 3-4 spot when Rodgers isn't there. So, but it's probably too late to change. Most teams are now what they are. Yeah. So they're going to have to work through it and get to where they get to. It didn't get close near the end, though. I was looking.
No, it was one of those things that you needed Surrey to have a good start to the fourth quarter. They were only down 5 or 6 at that point, but actually it went the other way, and Bristol just pulled out to a 13-point lead early in the fourth, and they cruised home from there. Really.
Yeah, got the shots they want.
Delpesh 10 of 12 for 23 points.
Yeah, no, they're the numbers that win you games.
Yeah, exactly.
Sounds fairly self-evident, doesn't it? Really, but
Thomas Edwards had 17 and Evans 13 points, 9 assists. Macklemore 21, Ogundengi 20, and you mentioned Jameson, his 15 points, 17 rebounds. He seems to be doing that.
That's 56 points. How many did they have in the game? They didn't have that many, did they?
71.
So 56 out of 71 with 3 guys, and obviously they lost Robertson, and then you've got Daniel Kodo off top of this. You probably want a little bit more.
Let's go to the game we were both at on Friday night, the Sky Sports game. Newcastle Eagles 96, London Lions 84. First league defeat of the season for the Lions. Change in the starting lineups. Chris Tarwier starting, Kelly coming off the bench. He did have his shoulder strapped up, and we talked about that potential injury he had last week.
Don't get like he's got his shoulder strapped up, does he?
No. He sort of drops it in, so he's not
Yeah,
quite as aggressive
yeah.
now, is it? That's the thing. And Person in the starting lineup for Newcastle, and Defoe coming off the bench. And I know you're a fan of Defoe coming off the bench.
Yeah. Two things. First, I watched this game back. I thought your broadcast was really good. So I'm gonna actually blow
Thank
some
you.
smoke in the sky.
Thank
I
you.
thought, may not be the commentator, but everybody. I thought that
Yeah.
I thought it was something that came across really good, really well on the television. Just the whole environment, and people want to, talk about the league or whatever, and talk about TV and talk about all that stuff. Well, look, that was comparable to where we were in some of the arenas in past games. Not the same, not the size, but in relation to the production, the commentary, the analysis, all of that stuff. It was done really, really slickly. And I thought it was a great advert. The game itself was utterly fascinating. It was fascinating because London are the great known unknowns. To bastardize a quote of Donald Rumsfeld. Everybody knows what they are and how good they are, but we haven't really seen the pinpricks or any of the issues yet. And believe me, when you're winning games, those issues are building. They're always there. It's just a question of how well you can cover them up. And the only time they get exposed is when you're put under pressure and you're in adversity. And they faced a little bit of adversity in this game, and they reacted in an interesting way. And it's not necessarily bad that they lost, and it's not necessarily bad that they had the adversity. But what was interesting was watching it up close and just seeing how it came out. First impression of London was, when I saw them, wow, this is a seriously basketball-y team, if I can put it that way. Every single one of those guys is chiseled. Every single one of those guys is in absolute shape. None of them are below probably 6'4", apart from poor Andre Lockhart and Justin. And they look like, this is a unit, basically. And they came out incredibly confident. They scored.
Played really well. Dirk was being Dirk, basically. And actually, first 5 or 6 minutes, we were getting sort of flashbacks to the week before, because London was scoring easy. Newcastle couldn't take anything away from them, and London got up, I think it was 19-10 in 5-6 minutes.
Yeah, that's right. And they scored early. I mean, Dirk is a whole different conversation. Dirk is just literally, from what he was his first year in the league. And I remember us guarding, I remember Yuri Gunjina guarding Dirk out the game at Sports Central in a game whereby he just wasn't there. And he looked a young guy. He looked a bit overawed. And, he knew, and I remember talking to Andrew Bridge about him. Bridge had been around some of the Sheffield practices. And said, this guy's got as much talent as you could ever imagine. All he needs to do is to believe it. He doesn't know how good he could be.
Yeah.
And we didn't see it at that time. Well, we're seeing it now.
Now,
let's be critical. And actually, him being either going quiet or being reduced to going quiet was a massive difference in this game, because he's the kind of their finisher, as it were. Couple of things about them that interested me. Jordan Williams basically played the 4 the whole game, which is where he played the GB. He first play of the game or second play of the game, he pulled up and knocked down a 15-footer at the foul line. He didn't shoot another one the whole game. He had the opportunity to do that. And if I'm Jordan Williams, I want to be shooting that shot, because that's his development. That's where his game going. He needs a Defoe 15-footer, and then he's unguardable, basically. But because he's so capable of getting to the rim, often we had this with Darius at times as well. You don't want to shoot that shot because you think, I can score at the rim every single time, but you need that shot against higher level players. And Dirk made a couple of shots. Cugini made a couple of shots, but Newcastle, even early on, it wasn't quite the same as the Sheffield game. There was a couple of times Newcastle in the first quarter went to a zone, and it was just death, because Reece stepped back to about 30 feet and just swished one, and then Cugini was wide open on the 1-3-1. But apart from that, the shots that they were getting weren't the same as the Sheffield shots. And more than that, going up early meant that London, I think, became a little bit lackadaisical, because Rose said it best on the TV. He nailed it as it happened. What are you going to say to them if you're Vince? The answer is, please run back. Don't turn the ball over, and please run back, and one leads to the other. Now, 3 times, I think, certainly in the kind of the first, beginning of the second quarter, Louis Sayers became Jamal Anderson and just ran down the court, and Fletcher threw the ball. Yeah. And a couple of times early, Fletcher didn't get anywhere, and it was driving at the rim. And the way London play, they play their in the pick and roll, they play their drop defense. So the big guy always drops into the basket. They don't come up high because they've got a shot blocker like Kelly, who basically wants you to come in there. And a couple of times Newcastle kind of drove into the morass and basically got nowhere. And then Newcastle adjusted, particularly Fletcher adjusted, and he started shooting his pull-up because Kelly was standing into the basket, or whoever was standing in the basket. And that kind of got Fletcher flowing. And when he got flowing, and when Defoe, particularly when Defoe came into the game, he got comfortable playing with Defoe. Defoe scored 7 points early as well.
Yeah.
And that got Newcastle in the game. And once they were in the game, the rest of the guys kind of started to feed off what was going on, in particular, throwing the ball ahead. So they got a game from Sayers, but those were primarily transition shots. You know, they got Person made a couple of shots. They got Shelton's energy, even Johnson Thompson's energy, you know, really helped them. And suddenly we're in a game at half time, and that's when the interesting stuff started to happen.
Well, it was really the points in transition that kept Newcastle Newcastle in the game. And as you say, once you get into that position, it's almost like the pattern of the game is set here.
What do we say about scoring races? You know, scoring races favour the home team. You know, always do, always will. And 46-46, you're favouring the home team because, you know, eventually they're feeling good in their own building. It also indicated that London weren't locked in to the degree that they could have been. And this is what I say about winning game after game, particularly in the BBL, particularly comfortably. And they haven't really had a meaningful game on the road in the BBL yet. Not a close game on the road in the BBL. And they walked into an environment that they probably weren't really expecting. A lot of the guys who've never been there before.
And they jumped out to a 19-10 lead after a few minutes. So it felt like every other week sort of thing.
Every week we're going to score 120. Everything's comfortable. They can't stop it. And then the game turned, and the game turned at the beginning of the third quarter, and it was the first three possessions which turned the basketball game. Because the first three London possessions, the first one, Reece is harassed and drives out and puts his foot on the baseline, turnover. The second possession, Fletcher is all over him, knocks the ball away, Reece fouls him on the side in front of you in the commentary. And then the third possession, there's a trap on the screen and roll, and there's a jump ball because either I think it might have been Shelton or Peel or one of them. It basically all end up on the floor with Reece. Yeah. And at this point, Reece is ticking. You know, and I'm looking, and Reece is a really interesting guy because we pointed out, you know, a few weeks ago, some of your guys thought he might be the MVP of the league. We pointed out a few weeks ago that he's probably the main guy, the domino, and he's never really been placed under that much pressure. And he didn't stand up well to it in this game. But the thing that's interesting about him is he doesn't look like he's cracking. He doesn't look like he's under pressure. He's kind of got this facade, this kind of blank screen, almost this look about him, which is I got in control. If he makes a tough three, he's not going around high-fiving anybody. You know, he's not jumping up and down. He's kind of got this kind of I'm cool, I'm in control, I'm calm. But I think in this game, what we saw inside was there's something different going on. And that's just the way that he handles, that kind of insouciance is the way that he handles the emotions that are going on in the game. And Vince stuck with him, and he made some shots in the third quarter. And Newcastle went out, and then London came back, and you'll talk us through that in a second.
So, I'll just give it to you now because Newcastle finished the first half 11-3 and started the third quarter 6-0. So 17-3 across the halftime to lead by 10, and that's the bit you've just talked about. The Lions cut the gap in the third quarter, and then the Lions had an 8-0 start to the fourth quarter to take the lead.
Yeah, and the Lions kind of were helped by the Newcastle bench because Newcastle really at this point in time are still sorting out their units, and their bench unit when they had at the end of the third quarter they had Kyle Williams, Johnson Thompson, Defoe. Fletcher came out early because of all the energy he'd expended on defense in the first 6 minutes, and so it was Kyle Williams, Johnson Thompson, Defoe, Person, and probably Sayers. You know, that lineup struggled. And you know they haven't really got a definitive creator. Their roles aren't mixed. Our roles aren't particularly defined. They haven't played together much, and you can't play many minutes against that London team because they're so potent offensively and they can run off your mistakes. You know, it can be a 9-0 run just like that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't quite that. Newcastle kind of held their own, but their rhythm was hurt. But what they did do was buy Fletcher some rest in that time. And then London came out at the beginning of the fourth quarter, as you say, and made a couple of shots. And you were just thinking, hang on, if Newcastle given it their best shot, but it's still not going to be good enough. And then in reality, it was, Fletcher, Defoe and Shelton really said, and then with Sayers knocking down the typical corner three. And so it was Newcastle's defense that picked up. But what was interesting was, when you get down to that last 6 minutes, you beat a good team. And I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. You beat a good team not just by matching them play for play. You beat a good team by cracking them, by trying to have some form of mental disintegration. And for the first time, there was some with Reece. No question. If you go back and watch that game, Defoe gets into him. No question. He gets the stupid unsportsmanlike foul. Pushing out on in the
that
corner.
was his fifth as well at that point.
That was it. That was his
fifth. To be fair, before that though, the Eagles had got the wind in their sails at both ends of the floor. They'd had an 18-2 run, and I think Reece got the only 2. And what you saw in there was the atmosphere of the building. This is something we noticed it probably more so than anywhere else so far, although it was super loud at Manchester. I will say we struggled to hear in the headphones loud. But it was that sort of crest of a wave in a big game, crowd understanding the importance for their team, given the position Newcastle have been in, given how good London are to win that game. And Newcastle fed off that. And as you say, the pressure was applied to London. It
was applied to London. It was interesting. I mean, Vince's decisions were interesting, and it was very interesting given what he said after the game as well. Because at any point, basically he played big the whole game. He played with Jordan Williams and Tawaya, Jordan Williams and Kelly. The smallest he got would have been Washburn and Kelly, or Washburn and Tawaya. Didn't ever have Washburn and Williams on court at the same time. Didn't ever have the 4 guards, so he didn't ever put Kajini in as a shooter and just have the one big guy in the middle. He stayed big. And what that means is Dirk Williams is playing the 2. Now, Dirk stopped scoring in this game. And Dirk stopped scoring because he really didn't get many touches. And when Dirk Williams plays the 2 and they're big, the ball is in the hands of Reece. It's not the same as when Robinson's in the game, whereby you've got, or Lockhart's in the game, you've got 2. The ball is in the hands of Reece. He is the guy who's creating for everybody, because Washburn isn't creating. Dirk Williams is basically attacking. He's not creating. He's reacting. He's attacking. He's shooting. Whatever. Jordan Williams is their secondary creator, but he kind of was stymied because Defoe knew how kind of guard him not to go out too far, and they weren't throwing him the ball much either. And then you got the big guy. Now I was waiting for Vince to insert Robinson, or Vince to insert Kajini, or Vince to sit Kelly Reece down, but he didn't. And I think he was basically playing the long game. I'm going to give him some credit here. I think he was playing the long game in relation to finding out, in relation to Reece, where he's at, and just showing him that this isn't going to be a cakewalk. Because whilst all this is going on, we're talking about Reece a lot. There was about 4, just at the game, when the game was on the line with an 7 point game with 3 or 4 minutes to go, Reece shot the ball every time down. No one else touched it. If you look at the offer, 4 times down, he shot the ball. Then he ran straight ahead. I think his 5th foul was actually the charge on Defoe. The 4th foul was the unsportsmanlike. Okay. He ran into Defoe. Defoe took a charge, and then Defoe took another charge. But Reece shot it every time down. Nobody else touched the basketball. And he missed. And you could see that everything was ticking. And whilst this is going on, Fletcher is dominating at the other end. I'll not say embarrassing people, but he is dominating at the other end. He's got, he is playing a masterful game, 25.17 assists, whatever he wants, wherever he wants. And he's figured out that he can't challenge Kelly at the rim. He's going to pull up and he's going to shoot his 15-footer, and until they change, not do anything about it. And when they do change, he's going to throw it to the shooters and all that stuff. So there's a lot going on there for a guy who's never seen it all before. Vince could have took him at the firing line. In fact, when Robinson came in, when Reece fouled out, they got a couple of easy alley-oops. The whole thing looked a little bit more relaxed. It was almost like emotion had gone and basketball had returned. But at that point, it was a 13-point game and the game was done. So, and then Vince went after the game, basically said, these guys don't necessarily know what they're getting into. They don't know how good some of these BBL teams are. And maybe now they know. So I think he was sending a message. I think Newcastle played very well, but they still, at the end of the day, they needed to force 24 turnovers to have X thousand fast break points, and they still won by 10, at home. against that team. That shows the level of London in relation to the way that they're playing.
And as you said, with 8 minutes to go, they're down 5 and could lose the game.
Undoubtedly. In fact, it was only their defense. And I think it was probably, as I say, I give a lot of credit to Defoe in relation to, the ability to be, as Kieran would say, the disruptor, and also to impact what's going on the defensive end. Because if Reece continues to be comfortable in that game, London win.
Yeah.
And Reece wasn't, and Reece, and even at the end of the game, you guys didn't see it on the camera, but I saw it. Everybody was bopping fists with each other. He was straight off, and Justin Robinson had to go and get him. To bring him back to say, hey, well, we don't do things like that. So there's a lot to be kind of taken from that. That was my take on the game. It was a study of, we know what all those other guys are. I know what Fletcher is. I know what Defoe is. I know what Sayers is. Got an idea what Jordan Williams is. All those guys, you see it. It's Reece. Sorry, I say I'm conducting a psychological study here, but he is going to be critical to their game, their team, or else you're going to see a lot more Justin.
Yeah. We were a bit surprised we didn't see a lot more Justin. I
actually think Vince. I mean, as I say, I'm surprised he didn't go small and play them together. I'm not sure because Newcastle aren't that big. Person's playing the two, so they're not that big. You can easily have the two guards out there. And Washburn at the 3 is kind of it's not a great fit because he doesn't really look to shoot it that much compared to, for instance, a Kajini, or if Dirk was playing the 3 and Justin was playing the 2. But that's probably the way they've been playing in Europe. They have to have the 2 bigs in Europe. They need the bigger team.
Yeah.
Maybe he's following on a bit from that. But I think he was, Reece got 5 fouls in the second half. Literally every foul was in the second half. And his usage would have been off the charts. He must have used 50% of their possessions in the second half. And ultimately, they're going to have to diversify away from that, or he's going to have to play very well, very consistently all the time. I would guess that they're going to diversify now that the message has been sent via the coach, via Sky Sports. That, this isn't quite as straightforward as you think it is, and everybody's going to have to play the right way.
It was a fascinating interview. If you haven't seen it, it'll be on the Sky Sports YouTube. You could just flip to the end of the game and listen to it. It was very interesting.
Yeah, he still couldn't resist getting
getting
a tag in at Gino, could he?
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to those London Leicester games.
I don't know why he did that, but there you go. When he's playing them next week as well.
Exactly. It's almost like there's a potty. I'm just going to stir it.
Yeah.
There's a bit more. Why? Because I can. Oh God!
You mentioned
you make our job interesting.
You do. He does. You mentioned Fletcher's numbers. Defoe 18 points off 8 of 10 shooting, 8 rebounds, 6 assists. Hayes 6 of 7 for his 15
6
points.
Assists for Darius is massive. As are 2 charges taken. As are 1 steal, 1 sportsmanlike foul received. 8 of 10 shooting. That's of all the big guys in the game, he was the most. He was the most impactful. That's the reality. And then Kelly might dunk it. Jordan might post somebody up. Tawaya might clothesline somebody. Shelton might, beat his chest a lot. But Defoe was the one who impacted the game the most.
Reece still had 23, 8, and 8, by the way, although 10 of 20 shooting.
Yeah, and he would have been about 10 of 16 until he melted down.
Yeah.
And so, he's a serious player, no question.
Yeah. Dirk with 18. So let's go from one exciting game to one less so. Leicester Riders 105, Glasgow Rocks 76. No Johnny Bunyan, which is a massive loss given he's shooting 60% from the 3-point line.
65%.
Yeah. Nelson Henry still not quite back for Leicester. Green opened the scores with a 3, but then they didn't make another field goal for another 5 minutes. Glasgow. Leicester went 11-3 up. Leicester got whatever they want. It was lunacy. Whelan 3, Jackson 3, Crandall 3, Washington 3 on the buzzer. It was 101 how not to play Leicester, wasn't it? Although what I would say, first play of the game, Loving on the 3-point line, puts the ball on the floor, makes a nice little mid-range jump shot.
Yeah, well,
just to stick it to you for last week.
That's fair enough, but as I say, I'll live with that. I live with him making a 2 off the dribble because he's having to work harder than rising up and shooting the 3 the way he can. I think he has got a mid-range game. I'm not sure he's particularly keen on driving all the way to the basket and finishing off 1 foot, but I don't think you need that when you're 6'9". You can shoot the ball. He can.
Yeah.
You know, Glasgow kind of still on the bus. It looked like.
Well, you say that, but the bus came down on Thursday.
Really?
They stayed overnight the night before.
Absolutely.
So that was a long time on the bus then.
It was. Well, had they played the week before? I'm looking for excuses for them now. I'm not sure if they played.
They played last week as well, I think.
They got no excuse. I thought the one thing I will say is that it's Leicester obviously in the South group this year, Glasgow in the North group. Glasgow haven't necessarily seen Leicester. I thought Johnson started off this game very passive, and I'm not necessarily sure he understood the level of the team he was playing against. And the problem was by the time, and because the thing was, I knew the score. I watched this back. I watched the first half back. I knew that they had 65 points at half time, and yet 3 minutes to go in the first quarter, they've got like 18 or something. And then 3 minutes to go in the second quarter, they've got like 46 or something, and they absolutely piled it on at the end of each quarter. And
actually, in the second quarter, as I was watching, I was thinking, wow, Leicester missed a lot of open shots for a team that scored 65
exactly,
points.
I was kind of figuring, how are they going to get to 65? Because, what's going on here? Well, the answer was they couldn't get a defensive rebound, Glasgow. And that is a potential sore point for them because, Fraser is kind of a rebounder who rebounds within his own area. The other guys, Hillsman's a little bit undersized. Harris doesn't rebound particularly well for as athletic as he is. And you often see Johnson's got as many rebounds as anybody. And I thought they got destroyed on the defensive glass in this game. Certainly in the first half. I didn't watch the second half, full disclosure. And the other thing was, by the time Johnson realized what the kind of game he was in, they were down 20 at the end of the first quarter, and he had Connor guarding him. And this is we're getting to that point of the season where the Connor Washington Appreciation Society comes out again. We call it the Quaz, right? Because he, one of the few guys in the league who has the capabilities and the mindset to stay in front of Jordan Johnson and draw charging fouls and get in front of him when Jordan Johnson's on the drive and get there and impact him. And to have a guy who's not your major ball handler doing that to burn his energy at the defensive end, who can then step up and knock down shots when he needs to, is absolutely massive. Because you need to always, the way to win in this league is to defend the opposition's best player, to take them out of their game. And we saw that with Reece, and we saw that with Johnson in this game. And the kind of actually, the bench lineup for Leicester, led by Washington, when Mackenzie is playing well as well, and adding in whoever Rob throws in with Adekoya, be it Jackson stays on the court or obviously maybe Whelan, whatever. That lineup is really being effective at this point in time. They're ahead of the other bench lineups, and then that allows you to bring Gino back in. And we've talked a bit, and Kieran talked about his 3-point shot, and he's shooting the ball more confidently now. I'm still not convinced if I'm defending him. I'm still probably wanting him to shoot that shot still because of all the other things he can do. But the confidence that has, it opens everything up because, the guy isn't necessarily dancing around on the spot for 8 seconds. If you put your hand down, you're shooting the ball. That's how you put up 65 points in a, you're not looking for the perfect shot. You're looking for a shot you can make. And by that time, the game was done, I'm afraid.
65-35. If you watched the second half, I can only assume you were in the Morningside Arena because surely anybody else would have turned over to the other 3 games that were going on. So that'll do. There's no point in even looking.
Yeah, what I will say is that it's an Leicester are ominous at the moment. They're ominous because they're going to run to London next week, and that's going to make a significant impact upon the footprint of the season and what happens in those games. But they're ominous because they have that talent and that unity that I was talking about. And that's what you're always looking for. You're looking to have the talent and the unity. And at this point, what I've seen in the past 3 weeks tends to suggest that they've got each other's backs. That it's all kind of ticking, and they are playing every game as if they need to win every game to win the league. Now, I'm not sure many other teams in the league are playing every game like that. And that makes a difference because you can be 12-0 and the other teams are 9-3, and you suddenly realize it's a 27-game season, and that's half the season done. This is something we always focused on Newcastle. If we can get to Christmas, 12-1, 13-1, but the teams we're playing in the second half of the season know they can't catch us. So our motivation is ahead of theirs. And you kind of chugging on through teams who are thinking, well, we're playing for third or fourth or fifth. It doesn't really quite matter as much. And that's where they're going. So you know, it's an ominous situation for the rest of the league.
Whelan 22.6 of 10 for 3, Loving 20 points off 10 shots, Crandall 18 points off 10 shots, Leicester were 18 of 42 from 3. Johnson and Hillsman 3 of
42 threes.
Yeah,
you know, whether they make 18
crazy.
or not, you can't. You know, they're too good. You know, you get threes or more than twos. What did we say last year? All those points, total points you could get. You cannot. You've got to run them off the lane. You've got to make them a little bit more comfortable than that. 42 threes means you're settling. You're allowing them to shoot shots. They're not good enough to get 42 wide open threes unless you're going to stand there and let them shoot them.
Johnson and Hillsman 3 of 23 combined for 8 points each. Green and Harris 14 points each. Can I go for another Claxon here, because this one is slightly niche and slightly from synergy. Leicester, if not counting NBA, Leicester are 16th in the world on points per possession, 1.035.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty...
Interestingly, Saratov, who are in London's group, are first.
I used to look at the one thing that when I was involved with the Eagles, I used to go through those numbers regularly. What always struck me was that defensive points per possession. Certainly in the years that we were good, Newcastle and Leicester were very, very high to the top. You know what I mean?
I did look at it. They're not as high as 16th. They are pretty high, but they're not as high. It was the offense.
There's comparative levels and comparative teams that you're playing against, obviously. In that. But you know, you would. I remember
if you're in a list not far too behind Olympiacos and FS and Metropolitan, you must be doing something right.
You're shooting 42 threes and you're knocking down nearly half of them. That'll do the trick.
Let's go to Saturday. And for all the defense that Glasgow didn't play on Saturday, Surrey returned the favour to them. Surrey Scorchers 81, Glasgow Rocks 122. Legend Robertson also out now on top of all the other players that we mentioned in the previous game. And this was one of those defense goes round the sports park games, wasn't it? They weren't hard to beat this time around.
It was brutal, I'm afraid. It was like it was one game too many for Surrey. And I don't get hung up necessarily on the 122 or the number, because when you get to kind of half time, it doesn't really matter. I was disappointed with Surrey's first half because their defensive resistance was fairly feeble from the beginning in relation to, you know, Glasgow haven't got that many more players than them. You know, Gareth's not playing. Johnny Bunyan's not playing. So, you know, they got, you know, Fraser Malcolm is basically their sixth man. Maybe the seventh man. And they have Glasgow have some talent. And some talent who are no doubt being not very happy that they've gone for combined 3 of 23 the night before. And Jordan,
they were 21 of 32 tonight, which is why I pulled out the 3 of 3.
Yeah, and that's your BBL bounce back thing, because they're going in there with a chip, and it's good for Glasgow that those guys have got that chip and they're not willing to settle. But you know, Surrey have people who have been in the BBL rotation a long time, and your starting point in a game, if you're undermanned, if you think you're undermanned, is that you try to dig in defensively. You try to, as it were, ugly it up. You try to make Glasgow lengthen their possessions, whether you throw in a zone or whatever. You rebound, and then you try and get what you can at the other end. And my view of the game was that Surrey didn't do any of that, and Surrey's players were more interested in getting their shots up at the other end, almost before Glasgow had shot it, you know, but because it was literally about boom, 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 boom. And that's dangerous, because then you end up playing for numbers and you think, oh, well, we scored 82. Yeah, but it's a 40-point game, 122. That's 150 odd in an NBA game. That's 4 quarters of 30 plus. You know, and this isn't a team. This is a team that's been held at 60 at Leicester, and they played the night before. So you can't, you don't have any excuses. And I thought, I didn't watch the second half because I knew where the game was going. Because it wasn't because of the fact that Glasgow was scoring, it was the ease and the simplicity with which they were scoring. They were getting to the rim, they were unchallenged. They could get threes wherever they wanted. I didn't see anybody at Surrey at any point saying, no, enough's enough. I'm going to guard this guy. I gave a slight shout out to Jameson because I think he just plays hard the whole time. but he's a little
19
bit
and 14.
he's a little bit undersized, but they're empty numbers against.
Yeah, they are.
They're empty numbers against it when the team scored 122. Kieran Achara tweeted afterwards something about, they might be down players, but you still have to have a mindset for defense.
Yeah.
And I absolutely endorsed that. I didn't think they had that in that game. And the thing was, they did have that at Bristol. Yeah, they weren't short at Bristol.
No.
They win the basketball game. They competed. I don't think they competed the way that they should have competed in the Glasgow
which is
game.
unusual at home as well with them.
It's very unusual. And it may be just that you're down 5 bodies from what you were 3 weeks ago. That is hard. It's not. But they still got 5 or 6 guys, and those 5 or 6 guys are going to want to play when those bodies come back.
Yeah.
When Robertson's back, when Hamrick's back, when Davis is back, those guys are going to want to play. And Creon's quite entitled to saying, "No, I'm going to let these guys play because you guys had your shot, and we got beat by 40 by a team on the second night of a back-to-back who were coming off a 30-point loss." So if you lose that game by 100 to 80, I would understand. If you can keep it relatively competitive, I would understand. But the first half, I didn't think was acceptable from them. I think that they're better than that, and I think they're going to have to be very, very careful now. They're going to have to get either those guys back or a new body or two in, or they're competing with Plymouth to not to finish bottom, and they really are more talented than that, I think. But talent needs unity. Unity needs focus. Focus is defense.
Yeah. Hillsman 33, 8 and 5. Johnson 32, 10 and 9. Just missed out on a triple double. Harris with 21 points, 10 of 12 shooting. 44.
Harris is fun to watch, mate.
Yeah,
Harris is fun. He catches a ball defensive rebound. He needs to rebound more because he gets the dunk off most of them. Because it's not just cutting; he just flies down the court. I'm struggling to think of a guy quite as athletic, kind of A to B as he was at his size in a long time. Actually, it will come to us, but I'm struggling.
44 68, 64% shooting. The team. Let's go to Sunday then. Bristol Flyers 78, Plymouth City Patriots 58. Plymouth made a few shots this time, following on from Friday where they couldn't make one. Hung about there for a bit, and then into the second quarter, Delpesh got 5, Jacob got 5, 10-0 run, and it's a 12-point game. Yeah,
and that's the problem. They can hang around, but 109 points in 2 games on the road. It's almost impossible to expect the coach to kind of produce a win out of that. It's not because they don't run stuff, because they do. It's not because they're indisciplined in their offense, because they're not. They get very little in transition, which is always a problem in the BBL if you can't score in transition, even if it's transition threes. Because the game is fast, and we saw that's basically the reason Newcastle beat London. And Bristol, to be fair, Bristol don't turn the ball over that much. The Bristol are pretty. The guys who have the ball in their hands most of the time are decent ball handlers. And the guys who are finishing know that their job is to finish. So you don't get very often see any of the Bristol players go outside of their kind of skill set. Which means that they look after the ball quite well. It doesn't mean they don't often get the very best shot, but they look after the ball well. And you combine that, and if you keep Plymouth out of transition, and you just challenge them to beat you in the half court, and unfortunately, they can't.
And that's the interesting thing about it, because if you looked at the runs in this game, it was a 6-0 run. Simmons with 3 plays in 4 where he's on the pick and roll, and there's a nice footwork in the low post, and then a few minutes later, it was Evans had 5 in a 9-0 run, and it's 6-0 and 9-0, and it's not 17-0 or 17-2. But when you're only scoring 58, 6 is a lot.
Yeah, I mean it's difficult for them, and it's just something of a stuck record here. They have Plymouth have kind of an equal opportunities offense whereby everybody's getting touches, albeit it's been kind of been warped a little bit with Kofi and Raoul Graham coming in. But there aren't that many possessions where you watch them where you think that's an empty possession, you're not getting anything here. They're all running to the right spots. They've got a ball handler in LVC Tusher who knows what he's doing. But it's just that athletic ability to get to the rim, or the ability of the big guys to finish, or the ability to knock down shots when you're focused. You know, the one game that came close was when Kofi went mental, had 46.
Yeah.
You know, but even then the team scored 85 in regular time. So I don't know, you know, I feel for PJ because he's never had a team like this. You know, he's never been in a position where he's had to kind of manufacture baskets as much as he has. And now, as I say, I think there's a risk that the unity kind of drops away a little bit, as, you know, you can lose in October, you can lose in November. But when you get into December and it's kind of, you know, 4 months of the season and you haven't won a game yet, and you're trying to find different ways of winning the game, and you're not necessarily being able to find one specific way because you haven't found a way which is good enough, that can get debilitating for the players.
Delpesh 17, Evans 7, 6 and 6, Jacobs 6, 10, 16, sorry, 10 and 5.
Yeah.
Simmons 6 of 8 shooting, 14 and 11 in 28 minutes.
Yeah.
Kofi Joseph's 24 points, but 5 of 17 shooting. Joe Hart with 16.
Yeah.
And again, 19 of 62, 7 of 26. His shooting numbers are not.
1962 is scary. And the other thing is, obviously, you've got that chemistry thing whereby you've got new guys taking all the shots. And that's fine when he's dropping 46. But when he's going on a weekend of 7 for 33, you know, the other guys are probably going to be looking over their shoulder thinking, hang on a minute, you know, he's not making us better, you know, and losing does this to teams. It's a psychology of individuals, is that everybody, you know, it's very, very tough to kind of hang around with each other and stick together in that, because everybody's looking to think, am I the one that's being blamed? Is it my fault? You know, and the worst guys, the ones that say, well, it's not my fault, it's his fault. And that can just rip a team up. And that's why it's so hard. It's a mentally challenging situation Plymouth are in at the moment.
So let's go to the
good weekend for Bristol.
Yeah, good weekend for Bristol.
What they meant to do.
They needed that. Yeah. London Lions 107, Manchester Giants 80. They were without Coach Lloyd Gardner through COVID, and Artisan was also out for COVID, and Lewis was non-COVID illness.
Right.
So they were obviously significantly short-handed, but they have a lot of players. We've talked about this before. We've also talked earlier in the show about getting into a scoring race with London not generally being a good idea, and I thought that's what Manchester did. And actually, if you do that and don't find a way to slow them down in the way that Newcastle found a way to slow them down, eventually you stop scoring and they don't.
Particularly at home, you know, particularly at home. You know, that number that we quoted, that 95 number in relation to, you know, if you give up 95 on the road, you're basically going to lose the vast majority of time, unless you're playing at Surrey. You know, kind of stays relevant, because you can feel good about yourself when you're trading baskets with him. Then you look up the scoreboard and you're down 15. Dirk, again, you know, just before we get to the game, I was obviously, the big interest was after all the comment about Reece, you know, where does it go with Reece? There was a couple of interesting little vignettes in this beginning of this basketball game. The first one was, I think, jogging down the court, Reece is in the corner, Washburn goes to set a screen on him, to bring him up to get the ball. Kelly has the ball at the top, as I don't know why it was Kelly, maybe Kelly Joe Williams, just bounces the ball to the wing where throw it to Washburn. Washburn's turned his back. He's going to set the screen for Reece. Ball just bounces out of bounds. Washburn turns around, says nothing to anybody. You know, Reece is kind of stood in the corner like this. And I'm just looking at thinking, there's a chemistry thing there. I mean, that's probably a little bit of over-assessment, but go back and watch the play. It wasn't like, okay, yeah, never mind, we got the next one, misunderstanding. There was a lot of kind of standing around. And after about 4.5 minutes, Vince pulled Reece. He only played the first 4.5 minutes. And Justin came in. And he came in for 5 minutes and he led them. And Justin came in and made shots and really impacted the game. And at the second quarter break, Lockhart came in. And Reece didn't come back in until like 4 minutes to go in the second quarter. So a guy who'd been the absolute focal point of their efforts in Newcastle, who basically played every minute that he could. You know, Vince gave him 4 minutes and said, no, it's not right. I'm going with other guys just to show you we don't need you. And Justin Robinson Andre Lockhart, Dirk Williams, all those guys. By the time he comes back in, they're up 15 and the game's on its way. You know, so that was an interesting bit of man management, having what we'd seen on Friday night. And that's probably the first step towards kind of breaking Isaiah Reese into what the Lions need him to be to go out and win more games in Europe or to win cups or trophies in this league. But we also got a Will Neighbour sighting, which was nice because he needs to start playing because, you know, he's too talented to be sat on the bench not playing any minutes. And, you know, there's danger. You know, you've got Ward Hibbert's been injured, hasn't played. Spencer's not playing. You know, there's Neighbour's not playing as well. You know, these guys are, you know, should be high-level British players, and if they're not seeing the floor in the BBL, they're in the wrong place, you know. So it's good that they're playing. And Manchester, yeah, the knock on them is their defence on the road, I think. You know, they got blown out at Sheffield. They get into these kind of scoring races, and outside of Jamel, you don't see anybody locking in. Now, this game, they struggled because McKnight didn't score, so they couldn't compete in the scoring race because their 20-point-a-game scorer didn't score. Missed shots and was done by the copper box, basically. And missed foul shots and missed everything. So, yeah, you know, they might have lost 107 to 99 if he'd scored, but that's still not going to win big games against London.
Yeah. So it was a 12-0 run that put them up 36-19 in the second quarter. And I thought there was an interesting thing right at the end of the first half, last two plays of the first half, where Manchester had got it back. It was down to 9 at one stage. And then the last two plays, Clark misses a 3.
Yeah, Williams.
London come down the other way, and Dirk makes an incredibly
you say
3
that
on the buzzer.
Yeah, you say that. I look at that the other way, and I'm saying there is no way in the world Dirk Williams is allowed to shoot that shot. Right? Because, I mean, I know he was 4 or 5 feet from the 3-point line, but that's Dirk Williams. You've got 2 seconds, 1 second on the clock. You have to be right next to him. You have to be up. He hadn't gone past anybody to get open. He had a guy right in front of him who was playing defense like that. That's not defense against Dirk Williams. You know, it's little details, but if you're saying, okay, if you make that shot, good job, that's fine, but not Dirk Williams. He's shooting like 98.5% or something, you know, and he's making them from everywhere, and he's killed you in the first half. So in a perfect world, you wouldn't let him touch the basketball, but if you would, you can guarantee he's having to dribble it because then he's not going to have the time to get a good look. So yeah, he made a great shot. Yeah, he was allowed to make a great shot, and that was indicative of Manchester's defense. Okay, if you make a good shot, we'll live with that. Well, you can't do that against London. You know, you can't.
That was the difference between an 8-point halftime and a 14-point halftime. And then a flurry of threes in the third quarter, and then suddenly Lions are 20+ ahead, and the game is done.
They are, I think, a team which is pretty good at front running. I don't say that lightly. I don't say that as the front running being a bad thing. Kind of in the meaning of front runner, we only try hard, but we only play well when we're winning. I think that once they get a head of steam behind them, once they get momentum in the game itself, they get comfortable, they get confident. You can't let them get away.
Yeah.
You know, and as you said on the Friday night, Newcastle just got back into it just in time.
Yeah.
But once you let them get away and get comfortable, and they know in their own minds that they've got the talent to win, they're going to win. It was only when they started doubting themselves on the Friday night that they lost. It was only when they didn't play with that degree of ferocity in Germany that they lost that game, because they played at their level and they thought their level was going to be good enough, but it wasn't, because it was a German BBL team who knew they needed to win.
Yeah,
they didn't raise it. But once they get up, you know, if they get up 10, I don't see them losing to anybody. If they get up 10, you know, in the second quarter, third quarter of games, I don't see them losing to anybody.
Dirk Williams, 30 points, 11 of 16, shooting 6 of 11 from the 3-point line. Kujini had 18. Reese only played 13 minutes. You talked about his minutes.
Yeah, so that's interesting. That really is, that's the type of thing to look for going forward, because they will be better if they can diversify away from him, but still get production out of him. You know, they don't need him to be 25, 9 and 9 every game, because they've got so much of the talent and they need to be able to win in different ways. But he has to buy into that. That's the issue.
Giants 30 of 83. We talked about shooting numbers on the road. Okay, that's the hors d'oeuvres out of the way. Let's get on to the main event. Cheshire Phoenix. You are home. Cheshire Phoenix 110, Newcastle. It's me that needs to go home.
Yeah.
Cheshire Phoenix 110, Newcastle Eagles 113 after triple overtime. Shall we just skip the first 37 minutes or something?
I think we just about can. I mean, it was close and it went back
close.
and forward.
Knicks had a little bit of a run around halftime to lead by 10. Didn't last very long.
What I would say is that just in relation to the game itself, it struck me as two teams who are talented but don't quite know themselves yet. Whose roster construction probably isn't optimal insofar as Cheshire have got two big guys who hardly played, Bradley and Bakali. Newcastle have got a lot of shooters, but not necessarily a lot of creators for the kind of the ball screen offense that they run. And they were kind of teams who were kind of fighting with themselves. I don't mean physically fighting, but they were kind of battling themselves throughout the whole game to put together enough good plays in a row to separate, and neither of them could do that. So when one team went up, the other team, Newcastle went up early, then someone's trying to throw Fletcher the ball in the back court because they don't want to dribble the ball up, and Fletcher's running away the other way, and Austin gets a layup, gets a steal. And the same at the other end. If Cheshire shooting a bad shot up there, but Otsorobi is cleaning it up and he's putting it in because there's nobody there to rebound the ball for Newcastle. And that's why the game was, I think, that the best, sometimes the closest games are between kind of teams which aren't quite ready to kind of grab it and say, all right, we're putting the game away now. So you get that kind of pull all the time as to who is it going to be, it comes down to who makes the least mistakes. And I thought this was one of those games, but we'll get to the end now. Yeah.
Okay, so let's go right to the very end because we've still got 15 minutes to come after this. Great shot by Defoe, 34 seconds.
Yeah, that was a major play, man, because that was a broken play, and he kind of drove in, but threw himself horizontally backwards, and managed to make a layup as well. I make the floater as well. That was a 1 point game, I think, at that point.
Yeah, 81-80 on that one. Cheshire come down the other end. McSwiggan airballs a shot, and then Johnson gets fouled, goes to the line, 5 seconds to go, chance to win the game.
Yeah, there was. We'll get to that. I'm putting things out of place here. Yeah, and you would have thought that was. I thought it was a slightly tough call, that, because Johnson kind of drove into the guy. I can't remember who the defender was. It might have been Austin. But he almost drove under the basket. He was almost like you were thinking, because Johnson had only come in the game 2 minute mark. Him and Defoe had only came back in 2 minute mark. So Johnson hadn't touched the ball, and suddenly he's getting the basketball with 5 seconds to go, and he doesn't really want to shoot the three because he's not warm. He's not in the game. He hasn't had any recent reps, so he drives, and I thought he kind of got bailed out a little bit. And it doesn't matter how good a shooter you are, when the game's on the line, it's different. Particularly when you haven't had any reps, you haven't any touches, and he missed the first one pretty bad, but he used the first one to line up the second one. Then
he makes amends at the other end.
He makes amends at the other end because he makes a great play at the other end, because Austin is a penetrator, no question about that. I'm not sure how much of a shooter Austin is, but I think he can get. He's one of those athletic guards that we see in the league every so often, who can get wherever he wants. He's going to shoot the passing lanes, who's going to attack the rim remorselessly. And he did, and Johnson stayed with him and managed to block his shot off the backboard to basically save the game for Newcastle.
So into the first period of overtime we go, and still not very much between them. So I'll spin it towards the end of that. Dickerson this time with 1 minute and 15 to go, making the tough finish to put his team up 91-88.
The whole, the Dickerson thing in this game was Dickerson-Defoe thing was absolutely fascinating to me, because you got the young buck who was clearly talented, who was scoring the basketball, and you got the old vet who was also talented, who can score the basketball, but who has been around the BBL enough to know how to play against young bucks. And the game, I don't remember when it was, but the game really, Dickerson was really helping the Knicks in overtime because there was energy, he was able to score on the rim. But he got rattled, and he first time ran down the court, just down the middle of the court. Defoe kind of lead.
I think that's in the second overtime.
The second overtime.
Yeah,
well, in that case, we'll keep going then.
Yeah, we'll keep going. They come the other way back, and Johnson hits a 3 to tie.
Johnson hits a 3 off a Defoe pass to tie the game.
Yeah.
To tie the game, that's right. And this is where, and that was a kind of a broken play as well, because at this point in the time, Fletcher is knackered, absolutely knackered. He's played like 47,000 minutes. And basically Newcastle trying to get the ball every time down. And Cheshire have scouted him, and Cheshire are working out that if he goes away from the ball, we're not going to let him get it. So Austin is all over him, or whoever, or Okafor is all over him. We're not going to let him catch the basketball. So that meant that the other guys have to make a play, and Defoe made it. In that broken play, Defoe found Johnson, hit him with a perfect pass. Johnson made the 3. Then they come down again, and remind me,
Mockford misses air ball.
Mockford shoots a bad shot. A bad shot from the wing, from probably 4 or 5 feet outside. Interesting in this game as well. So Mockford was playing, Naaman Wright wasn't at the end. You know, Naaman Wright's your American, very talented scorer. But there's something, you know, coaches have to make decisions, and that decision has been made for a reason. I don't know what it is. You can only think it's because he prefers having Ben Mockford in the game to Naaman Wright in the game. But, you know, that Naaman Wright will be sitting on the bench stewing, thinking, why am I not in the game? So he missed that shot, and then
Fletcher gets blocked by Dickerson.
Yeah, because Fletcher is trying to make a play that he's just basically not ready to make, because he's tired and he's going to the rim, and he's a step slow or a step short. And they come back down the end, and Okafor has the opportunity to win the game.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, Defoe plays great defense.
Yeah, it wasn't much of a chance. He got
I think
shot away.
What happened? Well, again, this is Defoe again, because Defoe switched on to him on the screen roll. So Teddy is thinking, I can get to the rim, but Darius keeps him in front of him, doesn't foul him, keeps his hand down, and also gets out to challenge the shot as well. I thought again, that was, you know, exceptional screen and roll defense, and those things matter in those games. So when we go to double overtime,
and this is when that started, and it was an unsportsmanlike foul, and then an offensive foul early in the second.
Yeah,
quarter.
and I watched it back, and you know, Defoe gave him a little nudge as he's coming down the court, like most centers, like nothing out of the ordinary, to be blunt. And Dixon kind of looked up and just kind of boom, split off, you know, and the ref's down looking at it, and it's like, you can't do that. You know, you don't know, you can't do that. He might want you to do that, but you can't do that. But the next time down, and that was Dickerson's third foul. And the next time down, Dickerson comes down and gives a hard seal on Defoe. Nice play, gets himself there, hot, he knocks Defoe backwards 2 feet, doesn't knock him over, but knocks him backwards. Doesn't really know that what Defoe does is get straight back up and take up that space where he'd been knocked from. And suddenly Dickerson, boom, shoulder down, offensive foul, same referee. Now, at that point, the reason those plays were important wasn't because there were 2 points lost or whatever, albeit it makes a difference, obviously. Ben Thomas takes Dickerson out. He can't trust him anymore. Comes back with McSwiggan. At that point, Eagles then go small, take Shelton out, match him up with Sayers. So Sayers comes into the game. So now you've got a totally different game going on, where you've got teams with a stretch 4 instead of a big 4. That opens the court out. That, I think, helped Newcastle more than it helped Cheshire, because Newcastle, I was struggling, I think, with the spacing. Having the extra shooter on the court gave them the opportunity to stretch them a little bit more, whereas Cheshire, McSwiggan really didn't make any shots in the game, and they were still looking to get the ball through, go through Teddy and go through Austin. So that changed the whole complexion of the game, that little kind of vignette of plays. And then Newcastle really should have won the game in the second.
Yeah, it should have been. They were 4 up, 92-96. It should have been 98, and I forget who it was.
Sayers blew it up. Fletcher gave him literally the ball, the silver platter, the hoop.
Yeah,
you know, for his 15th or 14th assist, and he just, you know, he'd just come in the game. If he'd been Shelton, obviously he'd have been dunking it and banging his chest back to Newcastle. But it Sayers missed it, and then they came down the other end, and Ocharobia missed a chippy as well. And at this point, the game's getting very, very tired. But
it was, you could tell they were out on the pitch.
I think Austin gets a cheap steal as well at some point.
Yeah, and then Austin also fouls Defoe out on his fifth foul, goes to
on the
line.
Offensive rebound. That's right, which is a big play, because then it brings Shelton into the game as Newcastle's only big, and that impacts Newcastle's screen and roll defense, which basically collapsed. And once Defoe went out, once Shelton went in, and Cheshire stopped running stuff, they just gave the ball to Okafor and had him make plays, and he probably should have made enough plays to win. But at the end of the second overtime was the, eventually, Cheshire won. Fletcher again puts the ball on a plate for a shoot. That person makes the first shot he's made in the whole game. And then they can't get back for 4.5 seconds.
Yeah, you've jumped forward there on me. You've gone,
Sorry.
yeah, you've gone from 93, 96 through to the end. So I'll just give the bits
going,
in between.
Go on.
Teddy gets to the basket, nice drive to the basket, makes it a 1-point game, 1:46 to go.
All these Teddy drives though are coming on Shelton, Shelton pick and roll, and it's open because it's not Defoe, and Shelton's tired as well. Shelton's played 44 minutes. And Shelton's positioning tend to drop a little bit. And you saw a couple of times Fletcher got a little bit frustrated with Shelton in the screen and roll because they didn't know what each other was doing.
Austin then got a steal.
That was when they were tired. Yeah,
put them in front with 95 seconds to go. Mockford then got a steal. Teddy missed. Ochirobia missed. 59 seconds to go. They really, really should have scored. Person then missed. Ochirobia. Little shuffle of the feet, not quite caught the ball.
Oh, that was the play. That was the play that could have determined the game, I thought, because Sayers switched on the Spanish screen. Sayers switched on to Teddy, played great defense, stayed in front of him. In the last minute, Teddy managed to throw the ball to Ochirobia, and he did a Strictly Come Dancing.
Yeah,
he just didn't catch it until that shuffle was there, and that's a 1-point game instead of a 3-point game.
Yeah. Eagles with the timeout, advance the ball, Fletcher drive and kick, and here's your person 3 with 10 seconds to go to make it 97-99 to the Eagles. Then the other way down, another pick and roll. Again, too easy past Shelton, Teddy.
Well, what happened
ties the game with a second to go.
Ochirobia absolutely nailed. I watched it back. Ochirobia nailed Fletcher with a fantastic screen. For what I'm saying about the travel, he hit him with a fantastic screen, which left Shelton, who was kind of up there guarding them both, suddenly.
You know what I was wondering is whether when he hits the 3, Shelton is very exuberant and just whether he over celebrated. I mean, he was back there, but just whether he got back there half a step late in there, I don't know.
I don't know. What I'll say is that Fletcher was absolutely normalized on the screen, so he was nowhere. And then I'll actually give Shelton a little bit of a break here because a 3 beats you.
True.
You cannot be often on the 3-point line, and basically he was ended up switched on to him because he had to, because Fletcher was brutally screened by Ochirobia. And, in that situation, you would prefer that he drives past him and makes a late. You would hope there'd be some help there behind, but then you don't want to be coming off the shooter in the corner either. So it was nice. It was a good play by Teddy. It was a great screen. It was a great screen. Anybody wants to go back, watch the screen. The screen made the play. And it's one of those transition screens because it's not a screen in a set half-court offense. It's a transition screen so he can get a guy, and he got him one-on-one, and Teddy made the right play. Here we go again, another 5 minutes.
There was a heave from just inside his own half by Fletch, but we go into a third period of overtime, and this is the point where I'm sat at a wedding and people texting me going, how many overtimes, what record is this? And I'm like, I'm at a wedding. But I remember them.
I'll have you answer in 10 minutes. Yes.
Well, no, I actually went back with, they did play 3 overtimes against Sheffield. I remember that one. And I know that 5 is the record Leicester Brighton because I was there. Yes. So I gave a little bit back, and I was sneakily watching StatCast at the time. Let's again spin it forward. Sayers with the 3 with 2 minutes to go, 105, 104.
Yeah, that was a big shot because they were when you get to those kind of overtimes, you're waiting for the first separation. First separation generally wins the game at that point because the team just cracks. And 6 points is separation basically, and it got to 4.
Yeah.
And Defoe's fouled out, and he's their main defensive guy. So Sayers making that shot, and I was interested because I thought Peel sat on the bench, and I thought he might want to come back with Peel because I thought Peel and McSwiggan was a good matchup for the Eagles. But obviously Sayers has been there, he trusts him. He's made big shot after big shot, so he stays on the court. And he knocked down that shot, and that was kind of a critical shot, which made it a 1-point game. And then it's just who can kind of make the last play.
Teddy goes 1 for 2 from the line to make it a 2-point, 106-104. And then with 1:26 to go, Person with a big shot to put the Eagles in front for 3, 106-107.
That's the type of shot whereby he's going to have to make a lot of them this season in the system that the Eagles are running, because he can shoot clearly, but he basically pulled up behind the screen. The big guy was there, but wasn't there with his hand up, and he knocked down a a really, really tough shot. And that's the shot he's going to have to make as in his role in the team, I think, to propel the team to where they need to be or where they want to be. And to make it at that point, because he earlier on, I think it may be the third, maybe this bit coming up, he then makes a ridiculous runner at some point, or he made a ridiculous runner in overtime, in one of the overtimes in this game, whereby he shot it off 1 foot from about 20 feet. It was a 2-point shot. It might be after he made that 3 or just before he made the 3. He's kind of the missing piece. He has to step up.
So next play down, Teddy again. He was really good.
He was, but again, it's screen and roll. He's just this top screen and roll. Newcastle don't leave any of the shooters, and they're attacking, basically making Shelton make decisions because it's different, to if Defoe's there.
So 108, 107, and then with a minute to go, Shelton with a layup. Ben Thomas, the players on the court, the commentary team, all screaming travel. I thought gather step layup. That's what I thought.
And I watched it back.
I went back, and I was like, maybe it was a travel 5 years ago, but I didn't think it was a travel.
No, it all depends. It all depends on where he, as you say, the gather step, where he catches the basketball.
He lands with 2 feet.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and then takes one further step. So it looks like a hop, skip, and a jump, but he actually lands catching it with 2 steps, 2 feet, and he gets 1 step. At the time, I understand why everybody thought it was, but I didn't think it was. I mean, I went back and watched it. I still didn't think it was. And you can get away with it. It's a lot to be a travel nowadays.
Yeah, no.
There is a lot.
Don't get me started on that. We've been going long enough to get me started on the bloody travel rule. But it wasn't called a travel, and that's the important bit of it. And then come down the other end, and Ocharobia misses, and the ball then goes out of bounds. And then the other way, Newcastle almost turned the ball over. Shelton's able to pick it up off the floor, drive, and get an easy dunk with 22.9 seconds to go.
And the foul.
And the foul.
And that was again, because at this point in time, Fletcher is gassed and Fletcher is being denied. And so again, the ball's in Person's hands as their kind of creator. And it didn't look good. It wasn't good because Person effectively dribbled the basketball off, I think Okafor's foot, or certainly the Cheshire defender's foot, but it went straight to Shelton. And Ocharobia was up on the screen, which meant that Shelton, to be fair to him, very swift of mind, smart thinking, just took one dribble and he's athletic enough to dunk it. And that was a massive momentum play because Austin or somebody came over and hit him on the head, and whilst I didn't think he was going to make the foul shot, it also slowed the game down. So he's 22 seconds, he makes it, he's up 3, it slows the game down and suddenly puts a lot of pressure on Cheshire. Now he doesn't make the foul shot, and then Newcastle's defense goes AWOL, but Okafor misses. Yeah,
Teddy misses the 3. I thought they were a little slow to foul as well, but then it is the 55th minute of the game. So.
What annoyed? I mean, it was Johnson and Shelton on the screen, and you're up 3 with 10 seconds, 5 seconds, whatever to go, and this is the tired thing: tired bodies, tired minds. How do you leave? How do you both end up stepping backwards towards a guy to take away the layup and leave, a knockdown 3-point shooter wide open at the top of the key? Because we'll never get a better chance to have 4 overtimes this season. How does that happen? That was just an utter mental breakdown from Newcastle, which will be forgotten because they won, because the shot missed. It was still a mental breakdown. And they were, I think at that point, it's almost like game fatigue. They're a bit late. Game fatigue, you think, oh no, this can't continue. You don't have that same enthusiasm, and all Fletcher had to do was knock down one of them, and he wasn't going to miss those shots, because once he's played 51 minutes, he's not losing that shot. He's not losing that game. I've played 51 minutes, having the ball in his hands. So it was an encouraging game for both teams, but I also thought it demonstrated, as I say, the kind of the bits where the teams have to get better. How they do that, it's going to take some jiggling of personnel, I think. Not necessarily changing personnel, but jiggling them around in their roles and finding rotations that necessarily work. It's not sustainable for Newcastle. That Fletcher plays 37, 38 minutes. We've talked about that. name on right, not in any of the overtimes. Is he not in the best 5 players at that point? If he's not, how's he going to handle that? What's his role going to be going forward? Levi Bradley played virtually no minutes in this game. He's an American. What's his role going to be going forward? But they've got the talent there, and they're both at the stage in this game, I thought, whereby they understood what the opposition were trying to do. And we're getting to that part of the season now whereby teams have seen each other. So negating other teams starts coming. So taking the ball out of Fletcher's hand starts coming. Forcing Okafor to go left if you can starts happening. And that's when the flaws of the teams become exacerbated. And we'll see. We'll see.
Some monster numbers in this game worth mentioning. Marco Cherubia with 24 points and 18 rebounds. Teddy had 16, 13, and 7. Shelton had 22 and 17. Fletcher had 21, 8, and 13. I mean, you would expect in 110, 113 triple overtime to see some big numbers, and they were certainly there. The 10th, by the way, I don't think I mentioned that. It's the 10th time a game has gone to 3 or more overtimes in BBL history.
That's actually less than you would think, isn't
it?
Yeah. That's in 20, 35 years? 10 games. Yeah, so if you're at Ellesmere Port, you've witnessed history. Or at least 10%, a very small part of history. So congratulations, and don't expect it next week. And also they screwed up my 95-point stat.
Yes.
So that's game number 7. So we're about 7 and 112 or something like that now in relation to scoring 95 points on the road, or giving up 95 points on the road and winning. Triple overtime shouldn't count. We should put in.
No, it shouldn't really. There should be
a fraction. Yeah, but no, it was a fun game. It was an interesting weekend for Newcastle. Interesting. 2 wins, great weekend for them.
Plenty of entertainment for the supporters as well.
Yeah, proper games. Games.
Right. On the basis we've reached the end of the last game, and the fact that my son's practice downstairs is about to finish and my other one's had enough of just milling about on his own over there, I think we're going to call it an evening. We'll try and get back to Sunday, although I'm not quite sure. We haven't talked through what we're going to do next week.
I think we're maybe doing a transatlantic one on Sunday.
Transatlantic. There we go.
We'll go global.
Even an ocean apart, we can still prattle on about BBL basketball. Right. So have a great week. Have a great flight, Dave. Enjoy Toronto, and I'll see you in a very similar position, but with a different background. If it's not something impressive, I'll be a bit disappointed. If
we'll see.
Toronto skyline in the background, I'll be a bit disappointed.
We'll see what I can put together. But it should be fun.
Excellent. Right, we'll leave it there and see you all next week. Goodbye.